1 in 3 people in Ireland live in a rural town. Up until the middle of the 20th century, rural towns consisted of dense, tightly knit collections of buildings. Outside the core, the town ended, reverting to cultivated land. Over the last 50 years, this townscape has changed radically. Economic growth and higher levels of car ownership have facilitated suburban and urban development on the outskirts of towns, and in parallel, increasing vacancy within town centres. The traditional method of making towns as a system of streets, plots and buildings was introduced to Ireland by the Anglo-Normans in the 12th century. Towns based on this structure could be added to and adapted over time, while remaining clearly legible to the user. Inhabitants of a town create their own mental map of its spaces and rituals, noting shortcuts through laneways, times of the day when their favourite bench might catch the sun, days of the week when the market takes place. Straightforward codes such as these allow easy navigation of the urban realm. Throughout the year, rituals such as May Eve, Bonfire Night and Corpus Christi weave people, place and time together into a dynamic tapestry of urban and rural life. Systems of exchange are fundamental to how towns have evolved over time. The right to hold a market on fair days was bound into their legal status. In the past, food produced in the hinterland was brought to town to be traded. Livestock was herded through the town and bought or sold on the main street, market square or fair green. Temporary markets filled the space of the street. Permanent shops and services occupied the ground floor of streets and laneways. It made sense for shopkeepers to live above their place of work. Others who worked in banks, schools and offices lived in the town, and those who lived in the countryside worked the land. Today, however, systems of exchange and dwelling function differently. Most of the goods we purchase now come from outside our community. We can buy pretty much anything we want when we want it. We can live anywhere we want and drive to work, to school or to shop. As a result, the market has moved from the centre of towns to the outskirts and online, leaving empty shops in the centre of town. Many of those who used to live in towns have relocated to suburbs and to one-off houses outside of towns. This suburban development tends to be generally low density, which means you need more land to fit the same number of houses in suburban form than in a compact urban form. It's monofunctional and disconnected. Because suburban development grows on a field-by-field basis, it's not based on a system of streets that lead somewhere, but on roads that often lead nowhere. Today, most town cores are surrounded with suburban development, whose built area exceeds that of the compact town core. As housing spreads out thinly, so too must the services that feed it, and at high cost. The car becomes the primary means of connection. Proximity, overlap, shared ritual and amenity are exchanged for privacy and homogeneity. In this scenario, the town no longer functions as an urban system. Streets risk becoming backdrops to an imagined life of town. It is possible to think about the future of rural towns in a different way, one in which dwelling, connection, layers of use, function and amenity are interwoven, so that the compact nature of town is again the very reason for living there. All public buildings, amenities, residential areas could be connected by a network of pedestrian and cycleways. Daily car use becomes less necessary, in turn making streets nicer places to be. Public spaces along these new routes allow time to pause and enjoy the theatre of urban life. A practical alternative to the suburban semi-detached house could be offered within the centre of towns. Vacant space in existing blocks could be quarried out and replaced with spacious new homes within existing plot lines. With entrances on the ground floor, every house could have its own private garden and have access to a shared public garden. If this strategy was applied in 5 blocks in any town, up to 600 people could be accommodated within the existing core. That means potentially 300 less cars circling the town to schools and workplace every morning, and a lot more activity on the streets. If overlap of space and time is encouraged, surprising things might start to happen. Streets with empty buildings could offer opportunities for flexible occupation and collaboration. New businesses could share buildings. An empty shop could accommodate a barber in the morning, an after-school class in the afternoon, and yoga in the evening. Temporary uses such as markets, allotments and outdoor cinemas could occupy undeveloped spaces. Town can thread together these and lots of other unexpected ways of using space, and in the process weave delight into our everyday lives. If we value rural towns as dynamic places of exchange and connection, where it is possible to live and share amenity, then it's time to be critical of the systems which gave us sprawl, ring roads, warehouse retailing and empty streets. It's time to reimagine towns as vibrant, engaging places which accommodate the overlap of people, ideas, dreams and ritual.